If you enjoyed this podcast, please consider clicking on the show notes, support the show, and go to the page where you could support us monthly. This program takes us a lot of time and effort, and it would very much give us a chizuk to continue. Yasher koyach. The Frierdiker Rebbe related by a Fabrengen. Chassidische Balabatim in previous generations implanted in their children, boys or girls, Ibergegebenkeit, devotion and iskashrus to the Rebbe. That all of their inyanim, their family matters, their parnasa, they always asked and did based on the instructions of the Rebbe. And this had a good influence also on themselves and on their families. The Chassid Rebbe Eliyohu Abeler grew up by his father, a Chassidische Yid, a simple Yid, a store owner in Polotsk, from the Chassidim of the Mittler Rebbe. It was once in the early years of the Nesius of the Tzemach Tzedek. The Rebbe, the Tzemach Tzedek, was then being oisek a lot in that the Yidden should settle in villages out of the city. When Rebbe Eliyahu's father complained to the Tzemach Tzedek about his shvere matzav in Parnasa, so the Rebbe told him that he should go and settle in a village next to Polotsk. They said to the Rebbe that he doesn't have the means to be able to move, and he doesn't have the ability to start a new business over there. So the Rebbe told him, I will lend you 300 ruble, and the Eibishter will bring for you a successful place. But you shouldn't ruin it, because all those people that I lend them money, the loan is matzliach for them and for descendants, ledoire doires. So Rebbe Eliyahu's father traveled back home, and he met one of his friends, and that friend told him that his paritz wants to sell a whole property, which also included a mill, a place where you grind flour. And this friend of his offered him, let's make a shutfus, let's be partners. You will buy the mill, and I will buy the property. And that's what they did, and they were very much successful. And from that small village, eventually that evolved into the shtetl of Abel. A few years passed, and that little village became a Yiddish village, and they ran a beautiful life, geshmake and ruchnius. The Chassid Rebbe Eliyohu was very simple when it came to learning. However, it was very much mekusher to my Zayde, the Rebbe Maharash. When the Rebbe Eliyohu asked, after his chasana, the Zayde, the Rebbe Maharash, what business he should go into, and whether he should settle in his hometown, Abel, or whether he should move to the nearby bigger city, Polotsk. So the Rebbe Maharash told him that he should stay in Abel, and he blessed him that he should have much atzlacha. And Taki was very much matzliach in health, parnasa, barchava. Once, Rebbe Eliyohu came to Lubavitch, and my Zayde, the Rebbe Maharash, told him, Eliyohu, I am jealous of your nisyonis. He, by nature, was a very warm person. He was tall and a yefei toyar. Physically, he had it very good. He was very successful. Throughout the years, he bought many properties, forests, and he will deliver the wood to Riga. He will travel there every year to Riga to sell his wood, his merchandise. Since he had business connections with all the people who owned properties around, so very often he will meet them and their families, and very often he would have to sit down and schmooze with them, eat with them. And since all these property owners around were all goyim, that brought upon him many big nisyonis. When he was 70 years old, the Frierdiker Rebbe relates, he told my father, the Rebbe Rashab, that throughout his whole life he had very strong, very hard nisyonis, which bothered him a lot. But the kiruv and the blessings of the Rebbe Maharash, helped him that, thanks to the Eibishter, he was never ever nichshel. He would say that when he will come to Olam Haba, and they will torture him until that from his chumriyas, from his chomer, nothing will be left, then he will ask permission to enter the Rebbe. From here, says the Frierdiker Rebbe, we see the amount of influence of the words of the Rebbe. Rebbe Eliyahu did not wait to get a schar when it comes to Eilam Ha'emes. Gashmias, he wasn't missing. And he didn't have any musag in ruchnius. The only hope that he had was that after whatever punishments he will get up there, and who have no chumriyas left, his neshama will be zoicha to be mekusher to his Rebbe. This was the lifestyle, the desire and the hope of the Chassidische Mechunachim in previous generations. In a letter, the Frierdiker Rebbe relates that once the Rebbe Maharash told in Yechidus, the Chassid, Rebbe Eliyohu Abeler, Eliyohu, I'm jealous of you. You go to the market, you see many people, and then when in the middle of the business deal, you speak with the other Yid, a Yiddish a word from Ein Yankov, and you awaken him, you me'erid him to learn Niggun and Chassidus, this makes a great simcha l'mayla. And the payment for being the middleman, for influencing other Jews to learn more Torah, the Eibishter pays with bonei chaya mezaynai. And the bigger the market is, the more work there is, and the parnasa is bigger. I, said the Frierdiker Rebbe, heard this story from Rebbe Eliyohu 30 years after that. He heard that from the Zayda, the Rebbe Maharash, in the year of Tov Reish Chav Ches, and he told that to me in the year of Tov Reish Nun Ches. And he said it with such feeling and such chayus, as if he just heard that from the Rebbe just the day before. I remember the big reishem that this story of Rebbe Eliyohu made on me, and the big wonder that I was wondering about that effect that the Hilike words of the Rebbe had on Rebbe Eliyohu 30 years later, to an extent that Rebbe Eliyohu became a completely different man. He was a Pashat Balabas. He knew a little bit how to learn, not much. He lived in a village close to the city. He was a Machnis Eirach, and he gave a lot of tzedakah. And since he was a businessman in the city and in a mill, so he had a few people working by him, and he had a shul and lahavdil, a mikveh in his property, and he had plenty of parnasa. Back then, 30 years ago, at the year of Tov Reish Chav Ches, when he went into the Yechidus, he was 45 years old. And that's when the Rebbe Maharash told him that. And when he came out of Yechidus, at the age of 45, he said, I came out cooked, gekocht. For 20 years, I traveled to the Alter Rebbe. And when he said Alter Rebbe, he meant the Tzemach Tzedek. I heard Chassidus, as much as I was able to understand. But Baruch Hashem, I heard Chassidus. I was in Yechidus. The Rebbe gave me a Seder and Anhaga. But such a word that the Rebbe Maharash told me then, that I never heard from the Rebbe. The Rebbe is telling me to Eliyohu Abeler, Eliyohu, the Yeshuvnik, the Rebbe is telling me, Eliyohu, I'm jealous of you. My head started to spin. After the Yechidus, related to Eliyohu, were then about 30 people, and there was a whole Fabrengen. And I decided right then and there to hire for myself a Malamed to start learning at the age of 45. I decided that I have to turn Eliyohu into a mensch. An expensive medical recipe, said Rebbe Eliyohu, the Rebbe gave me. It stuck to me like a bandage that is smeared well with cream and stretched out on my body. When I came back to Lubavitch, I let everybody know in the city of Polotsk. And the way it was then, a few minyanim of Chassidim came to hear the news and to hear whatever I brought back from Lubavitch. The Chassidus, the Mamorim, I couldn't chazer Baal Peh. Just a few words that the Rebbe said then, that the Malachim and Shemayim, the highest darges, are jealous even of the biggest Am Haaretz who does a mitzvah with Yiras Shemayim. That is something that I did remember from the Maimer, and that I repeated to the whole crowd who gathered. I also remembered that the Rebbe said then that the Eibishter is called Melech Yisrael. Yisrael is Rosh Teves, Yei Shishim Riboy Oisiyos LaTorah. There are 60,000 neshamas and 60,000 oisiyos. And each neshama has its letter in the Torah, which that is the chayus of that neshama. And each letter in the Torah has its neshama. And this neshama comes down to this world in order to be megale, to reveal its letter in the Torah. So Hazoi, a Pashat Yid, who is standing in a market and is doing business, be'emunah, the Malachim and Shemayim are mekana him, are jealous of him. More than that, I didn't remember. But what I did was, I did bring the Ksav that had the whole Maimer in it, that I had a copy of, and the people learned it and melted from pleasure. And then when I told all the people who came, well, the Rebbe told me in Yechidus, that the most simple Yid could accomplish a lot when he goes in the market, etc. And I was quite shy when I was saying that, but I related the Rebbe's Helike words as the Rebbe said it to me. That the Rebbe said to me that he's jealous of me because I go in the market and I influence people to learn, etc. These words burnt the Chassidim in the ground so much, like a hot porridge placed under a saddle. An immediate result of that was, and in our minyan, in our village, right away set a new Shir Gemara and in Likutei Torah. And the Rebbe's Vart right away spread out in the whole entire area. From that day, said Rebbe Eliyohu, every day throughout my life, I remember this. And throughout the years, I was mechayech, balebt, hundreds of Yidden with this vart. Many Yidden got chayes from this mimer and became lebedike Yidden. Also Yidden which are businessmen, storekeepers, started to learn Gemara and Chassidus. And when I met them again, sometime later, their faces looked completely different. How glorious was the face of Rebbe Eliyohu and his excitement when he related to me, says the Fidik Rebbe, that this vart from the Rebbe Maharash gave chayes to hundreds of people who started to learn and became lebedike Yidden. Rebbe Eliyohu stressed to me that these 30 years, that every day of those 30 years he remembers the Helike Verter of the Rebbe Maharash, and every person that he meets, needless to say, his friends and people that he knows, but even Stam people, Stam Yidden that he meets, that he doesn't know, he starts to talk to them about Limud Torah, to encourage them to add in their shiurim, and Kol Atzmoisav of Rebbe Eliyohu, his whole entire body, or basically saying to me that these 30 years, whatever he accomplished in these 30 years, all gave it a good reason for him to be in this world. Because doing these 30 years, he accomplished the purpose of why his neshama came down to this world. At another Farbrengen, the Fidik Rebbe related, the Zayd the Rebbe Maharash once said to my father, the Rebbe Rashab, today I had two guests. From one guest I had a tremendous nachas, koiras ruach, and the second guest caused me pain, deep pain. Who came to Lubavitch then? So who came to Lubavitch then was Rebbe Eliyohu Abeler. He lived in the village of Abeler, which was near Lubavitch. This was a period of time that the Rebbeim wanted to turn the villages into bigger shtetelach, because then there was a decree that came out that Yidden should not live in the big cities. So they tried to make the village Abeler into a city. And the other chassid that came to Lubavitch then was the chassid Rebbe Eliezer from Polotsk, the one who wrote the Sefer Mishnas Eliezer. Those were the two guests. When Rebbe Eliyohu Abeler went into Yechidus by Rebbe Maharash, so Rebbe Maharash asked him, "No, what's going on by you?" He was a Baal Eisek and a simple Yid, and he answered, Baruch Hashem. So then the Rebbe Maharash asked him, and how is it going in your business? So he answered, Baruch Hashem. But Rebbe, I'm in tremendous pain from the fact that Yosef, who lives in our village, he is not successful, unfortunately. We collected money for him, and we bought for him a horse and a buggy so he could travel to the city with a little bit of merchandise, and somehow he always gets into trouble. The wheels break, the horse breaks a leg, and then they steal the horse. Anything that could happen to a Shlomil happens to him. Rebbe, continued Rebbe Eliyohu, how can I help him? He sighed and he burst out crying and he said, Rebbe, give Yosef a bracha. The Rebbe Maharash listened and he answered, actually you could help him a lot, because when one Yid is mitzta'er with the tsar of his friend and he asks for him, by that he removes from him all the kitrugim and he breaks all the decrees in Shemayim about him. Afterwards, the Rebbe Maharash took out a coin from his pocket and he gave it to Rebbe Eliyohu and he told him, I want to be your partner. The Eibusher shall help you. They should be able to do a favor to a Yid and it should be ba'atzlacha. So Rebbe Eliyohu started to shake and he said, Rebbe, you want to be my partner? Do you know who I am? I am that thick chomer that it discusses in Tanya, that the only way to fix it is by shvira, etc. And this is the chassid that the Zayda Rebbe Maharash said that he got a lot of nachas from. And when the other chassid, Rebbe Eliezer, came into Yechidus, and the Rebbe Maharash asked him, "No, how you doing?" So he said, "Baruch Hashem, I learn a shir le'iyun with Yungalite, and we learn very good. And on Shabbos we daven ba'avodah, and we're marich b'tfilah, and the Yungalite in my city learn chassidus." He was the mashpia over there. And then the Rebbe Maharash asked him, "And what about midos?" So Rebbe Eliezer answered, "Midos are like the gvirisha Yungalite, like Yungalite from wealthy homes. In other words, not purified enough." So the Rebbe Maharash told him, the blame goes to the mechanech. The blame doesn't go to them. It's not their fault, it's your fault. The first thing when it comes to chinuch and adracha, it's midos toivus. Not to learn the sefer, rather to teach yourself. When you come back home, you should open up a gemach, and each one of these Yungalite, to have it well beparnasa, each one of these Yungalite should take half of his Niggun, half of the money they got for their wedding, and put it into this gemach. So Rabbi Eliezer answered the Rebbe Maharash, I don't think I'll be able to get them to do that. So the Rebbe Maharash told him, if I said, then they will do it. And tell the younger light that when they will give, they're not giving their own money. It's not their money. And if they're not going to give, they're not going to have that money. They're going to lose it. And the Rebbe Maharash ended, next time you come here, please bring me better news. And that was the second chassid. That's the one that he had deep pain from. And when the Rebbe Maharash ended telling that to his son, the Rebbe Rashab, he said, if I would give in to my nefesh ha'elokis, to the desires of my nefesh ha'elokis, I would kiss Rebbe Eliyohu Abeler. We will end off with a geshmake, Niggun, Hisva'adus. Oy mama idadam ya ma idadam mam oy mama ya idadam ya idadam mam oy idadam idadam ay dadam mam oy dadam oy mam oy nanam ay dadam ay dadam mam oy nanam ay nam ay Yinam mam ay my mam mama yinam mam ay nam tiriya da dam ay da dam tiriya mama oy mama oy nam nam ay da dam ay oy nam mama nam mam nam oy mama oy mama oy nam mam oy mama oy mama